What are the language skills your child needs for an AI world? As a language therapist, I'm already working with students for whom language is not their forte and they need support with learning language for school, for reading, for social interactions, and so forth. And I feel that a lot of these language skills become even more amplified in an AI world. All right, let's talk about them. I can think of language in three ways. One, language for communication. Number two, language for thinking. And three, social language. First, language for communication. This is probably the most obvious one. So when we're using AI, it works best when we give commands or prompts very clearly and concisely. So your child would need to use commands such as explain how black holes are formed in simple terms. Or maybe tell me what photosynthesis is and then explain why it's important for plants. Right, using very specific vocabulary, being able to formulate ideas into a sentence structure, and using the right grammar. In fact, if we think about it for adults, right, how we might use it. So a working adult in working in, say, corporate business development, it might use obviously a much more advanced, precise language. So we might say, generate a presentation outline on market trends in the renewable energy, focusing on investment opportunities in Europe with a tone that's professional but optimistic. Okay, now obviously we don't expect kids to be able to do that, but it's a good way to show you how we need to help children to develop the foundation, build up the foundation to pick up vocabulary, being precise in their thinking, being specific in different areas, not just the what, but how you do something. So that's language for communication. Number two, language for thinking. Now, these two are obviously intertwined. If we think about vocabulary, for example, what most people think is a very important part of language, vocabulary, or the words that we use. If we think about some words that we know and use, paradox, catch-22, or maybe very industry-specific jargon, algorithms, we realize that it's often not until we have actually learned the word that we pick up the concept. It'll be very hard to develop the concept for catch-22 until you realize that, oh, there's a very specific word that describes this concept. So picking up vocabulary very often helps us to expand our way of thinking. A lot of children who struggle with social language actually have this difficulty because they're limited in their vocabulary. So everything is either happy or sad. So it's often not until they've learned other words, words such as being worried, words such as disappointment, maybe even more advanced feelings such as betrayed, that they will get the chance to understand or develop the thinking for concepts like that and use it in their social language. Okay, and especially for a language for thinking, right? I feel that when it comes to an AI world, if we think about AI, right, most of the time we just use the letters, the acronyms, but it's artificial intelligence, or more specifically, artificial human intelligence. If I ask AI to define AI or explain AI, right, here's the way the words that they use. AI is a system that uses data and algorithms to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as analyzing information, recognizing images, making predictions, or automating processes. So in other words, the very definition of AI is something that actually replaces or tries to come close to human intelligence. So in order to use AI as a tool, right, the same way, this reminds me of like Black Myth Wukong's Jingu Bang, what he pulls out of his ear. Right? Either we learn to wield the tool or we have to yield to it. So if we think about the language of thinking, where we have to give directions to AI, We have to be able to decide. So I think here the keyword is decision. If you ask me the keyword for a language for communication, I would say it's precision, right? Obviously, you're using very precise words to give commands, to phrase your questions or phrase your prompts and so forth, precision. The keyword I feel for language for thinking is actually decision. So this is where it's not so much about communicating with other people. Maybe it's more about language for communicating with ourselves, for thinking, self-language, right? Trying to decide on something, making a judgment, and so forth, deciding on the path, the general direction, and then we use the AI tools. So how do we develop the language for thinking? To me, I feel there are two main processes. All right. One is learning. And again, that comes back to using language to learn, to research, reading comprehension, summarizing it, being able to be concise in explaining and so forth. Right. So that's learning, there's language involved. And number two, when we want to develop the big picture thinking, for language for thinking, we need practical experiences. So we need to do things. We need to interact with other people. Right? Again, that requires language. And that's where social language comes in as well. For social language, I feel that the keyword is collaboration. In the recent movie Nerja 2, it's probably not just a movie, it's a phenomenon. That was a collaboration of 138 small animation companies in order to create such a success. So imagine the level of communication, both at a technical level and also maybe just at a social level, right? People working together. So those are the three areas of language that I feel that your child will need to not just survive, but thrive in the AI world. So by being aware of those and slowly working that into everyday life so that we help our children to build up the foundation and develop those language skills, that's how we can help them to develop a bright future and to thrive and to really, succeed in using AI, because it's definitely going to be a much, much bigger part of their lives than ours. Right, so here's your bright future for your little ones as well. And I hope you've gained a better understanding of the language skills and importance. Thank you.